Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another scary true story reading session. Spear fingers with me. We're going spooky, we're going creepy, we're going uncomfy. We have about 8 stories for you guys today. We have creepy encounters, let's not meet, and then we have a mix of BS. But it ain't BS, because all of these are so good. But you know what? Let's stop wasting time. We have 8 stories to get through, y'all. Let's go. Wait. You guys almost forgot. You need to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. I have posted a few times here before. I worked on research vessels for about 15 years. This is going to get lost in the middle of the comments, but that's probably for the best. This isn't some made-up crap about ghosts and ghouls and mystery lights and sea monsters. On its own, it's not that scary, but the implications are. We were doing a project in the British Virgin Islands. It was subcontracted by the Royal Navy, so I can't tell you what it was. Now it's about 2 weeks into this 6-week project when we saw something floating on the surface of the water. At first we thought it was a seal or a shark or a dolphin. We had found one a week before, caught in illegal fishing nets. So one of the crew hauled it up. It wasn't marine life. It was a girl about 11 or 12 years old, naked, dead, and had been for at least a day. Almost immediately, the captain came over screaming and yelling at us to toss her back. He was fucking terrified. This was a brave man with 30 years spent at sea. He had guided ships through storms, sailed across oceans, even spent 2 days on a lifeboat after his fishing boat sunk. So he wasn't someone to be scared lightly. But this dead girl fucking terrified him. We were a small crew, only 8 of us. There was the captain, a handful of older experienced hands, the chief researcher who was the British guy in his 60s, then me, a female about my age, and then a younger intern. The British guy started to argue and the captain got in his face, squaring up to him shouting stuff like, "You don't want to mess with this. You don't want to touch this. We didn't see her." He wasn't angry. He was terrified. While we were arguing, one of the other crew threw the girl back into the water, a dead 11-year-old girl, and he just tossed her back overboard. At this point, the captain calmed down somewhat. He refused to tell us what the fuck was going on, but just kept saying, "Trust me, you do not want to get involved with this." Afterwards, me and the intern and the other researchers my age were talking about it. The intern spotted what I didn't. The girl had ropes around her hands and deep cuts on her ankles caused by ropes. Some fucker had tied her up, weighed her down, and threw her overboard. I am guessing the rope around her legs snapped or came loose or wasn't tied properly. Now, at first, I thought this was something cartel or gang related, and the captain knew that, and this was why he was so scared. But a few years later, the news about Epstein Island broke, which made me reconsider. What if Epstein Island wasn't the only one? What if there is another out there? And if there is, considering we fished a murdered girl out of the water, it's even worse. It's very naive to think that there is only one single island that we do sex and child in. It is one of the most profitable industries. It's so sad. It's so disgusting. If you just go on X for 5 seconds, you will see that there is a disgusting amount of people that will sympathize with pedo. I can't say it on here. And it's absolutely disgusting. And this is my conspiracy brain. I truly think that a lot of these celebrities, like, Avicii committed, Chester from Linkin Park, and they were all uncovering this kind of shit. Avicii was literally putting out a video on this shit, exposing this shit. And then all of a sudden, he's depressed. He did some crazy shit. And honestly, I know you guys aren't here for conspiracies, but I'm gonna tell you anyways. I don't even think the Epstein list exists anywhere. I don't think it exists. I think it's a way to distract us from some fucking bullshit that they're doing, just like half the shit that happens. It's all a distraction tactic. Because at this point, if there is one, I would say all, maybe a select few. I would say 99% of politicians are probably on it. Let's be real. You can't trust the government as far as you can throw them. And I think the majority of celebrities are also on that list. Because they're all they're all satanic. They're all freaking satanic and do disgusting shit and think stuff like this is okay. And they sacrifice children. I mean, just look up Bohemian Grove. There is the craziest shit. If you just go down deep rabbit holes, because before I did this YouTube thing, my biggest thing was going on deep rabbit holes of conspiracies. And my God, the shit that you see, the connections that you put, it'll make you go nuts. It really will. Can't trust shit that's going on anywhere. But anyways, back to this story. This is obviously some kind of deep thing that your captain knows about, and it probably is best for everybody's safety to put her back in the water. As fucking shitty as that is, as much as you are not going to be able to sleep at night, it's just the way it is. You don't know what some people are truly capable of. There is some extensive evil in this world. Shit that we cannot even begin to comprehend. And sometimes it's better to not fucking find out, okay? Let's actually read some comments. Was there anything that made you think it's something like a human trafficking chain? Could it be a smuggling people operation that left people in vulnerable state so someone could leverage the situation and kidnap people? It wouldn't probably have any consequences for them since nobody would be looking for someone who is not legally there. And your captain didn't want to participate or any investigation following that. I don't know, just wondering. It is a terrible story, and I'm sorry you experienced that. Of course, very sorry for the girl. Another commenter, the fear the captain felt, I can't really describe it in writing, but was absolutely terrified by this. It wasn't a case of not wanting to deal with it and hassles with an investigation, but genuine fear, as in mess with this and he is dead. Which is what made me first think cartels or gangs. But then the location surrounded by private islands and the billionaire's private playground, not really a hotbed of cartel and gang activity. This being trafficking didn't occur to me until the revelations about Epstein Island a few years later. But that the location, the fact the victim was a very young girl, and the captain's fear just made me think, what if it is? That's the thing. There is probably so many of these islands. I mean, Epstein's probably living on one right now as we speak. To think that people who do this kind of shit would have one location is so naive and ignorant. It really is. They're not just gonna have one. I mean, there's tunnels all under the US to do this sort of shit. You think they're gonna have one location? Bitch, please. No. No. And I'm sorry if I look crazy now because I said a single conspiracy. But it's probably gonna get worse. I love conspiracies. I really do. And when they come up, I'm gonna talk about them. Let's go to another one. One evening, I was out in Lacey, Washington to pick up a handgun I had recently purchased for protection. Contrary to the pickup status, both online and sent to my email, the store didn't have it in stock yet and told me to come back in another week. I lived about an hour from Lacey at the time, and when I had gotten there, evening rush hour was just beginning to become unbearable. I didn't want to drive all the way back home just yet, as it would add an additional hour to my already long commute. Side note, the car I was driving belonged to my dad, and I was borrowing it until I had enough money saved up for a new car after my beloved Honda had broken down the previous year. I killed some time bumming around the store I had purchased my firearms from, then decided to drive over to the nearest coffee shop. It was a newly built cabin-style cafe with a modern twist. The barista handed me my 16-ounce dirty chai, and I walked back out to my car. I then drove to the gas station around the corner, still trying to kill time until traffic thinned out. The car didn't need gas, so I pulled into a parking spot right at the corner of the four-way street block the gas station was on. I turned off the engine, stepped outside, and lit up a smoke, leaning against the driver's side door so as to not stink up the interior. The weather was overcast and drizzly, but not overly cold. It was now dusk and most daylight had disappeared. The stoplights in the intersection were diffused by the late autumn mist. I watched them flicker from green to yellow to red, and again as the traffic was orchestrated accordingly. Zoned out by the lights and being generally lost in thought while enjoying my coffee and smoke, I didn't realize the man walking towards me until he was already halfway across the street. He was white, average height, and strawberry blonde, maybe in his mid-20s. He definitely hadn't changed his clothes in a good while, and carried a backpack I assumed to be full of a few belongings he had. He didn't smell, but he looked raggedy and unkempt. My immediate thought was that drugs were likely a part of his habitual lifestyle. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I'm always cautious having grown up in the suburbs of Seattle. The man finished crossing the street, awkwardly limping toward my car. Maintaining eye contact in a winced grin, I locked my car out of caution, but remained outside smoking casually. Normally, I'm not a social person, but I don't go out of my way to be unpleasant either. He approached me and stood about 10 feet away when he said hello and asked if I had a light. I complied hesitantly, but saw no harm in meeting his simple request. Taking 2 steps forward, I lit his cigarette, which he was holding out toward me while approaching. He attempted to make small talk, weaving in hints that he had just gotten off the bus and still needed to get down the road another block. Somewhere in his poorly crafted sob story, he stopped himself mid-sentence, like a bad actor, and pretended to be struck by an epiphany. Hey, would you mind just dropping me off down the road? It's not very far. I apologized and said I couldn't help because it was my dad's car and not my own, and I didn't feel comfortable without my father's permission. Some stupid yet plausible excuse I came up with on the spot. Mr. Unkept did not like my answer, and his smile immediately turned tense and flatlined. Clearly upset, he became more insistent. But it's just down the road, he whined. My leg is killing me, and it wouldn't even be far for you. I'll give you a cigarette. His persistent and sudden burst of hostility made my hair stand up. I firmly said, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. It's my dad's car, and he has set rules. Absolute BS. With 10 years of hospitality under my belt, I immediately offered him alternative logic ideas of what he could do to get where he needed to be. I even mentioned maybe someone in the gas station we were outside of could help him out or call him a ride. Each word I said made him increasingly irate, and he began curling his fingers into fist. Not in a threatening way, but like a toddler about to scream bloody murder for not getting their way. He seemed to pause and size me up in a fleeting moment. I'm small and not all that intimidating physically, so I told him I hope he makes it home safe. Quickly unlocked my car, jumped in, and locked myself inside. When looking up from locking the car door, I see him speed walking back across the street from the direction he originally came from. No limp, no awkward walk whatsoever. No distress or pain showing even slightly. Just a normal speed walk of a physically well person. A rageful person. I knew I had dodged a bullet and felt pretty dumb for hanging around the city after dark alone. At that point, I didn't care about traffic anymore, so I turned over my engine and hightailed it home in what ended up being an hour and 45-minute drive. But this time, the traffic was 100% worth the inconvenience. PSA, if you haven't heard it enough already, be careful who you give your attention to, especially when you're alone. Stay aware always, and err on the side of caution, even when strangers seem harmless at first. Crazy bad acting hitchhiker guy, I hope you got the help you needed rather than the help you wanted, and I hope we never meet again. I never understand this I'm gonna wait out the traffic thing. I don't know if this is like a stress reducer or what, but if you were to wait, you're gonna get there in the same amount of time if you were to just go and ride out the traffic. Because now you're adding time waiting, and then you still have that time it's taking to drive. I just never understood it because I'm the type of person, I don't like try and weave in and out because I'm not going to get there faster. I will sit in the slow lane and sit behind that semi and go slow as hell because I ain't going to get there faster if I'm stressing myself out like, I gotta get there. I'll maybe make up 2 minutes. Maybe. Unless I'm on a motorcycle, then whatever. Traffic doesn't matter. I don't ride a motorcycle. I don't have one. I'm just saying. Examples, okay? Also, please pay attention to your surroundings, you guys. I can't say that enough. Me, you know, looking all around me. Look, I'm not somebody that's ever on their phone in public. The only time I am is if I'm looking at a grocery list in the grocery store. You do not owe your attention to anyone. You could just tell him the truth. Hey, I'm sorry. I do not pick up strangers. I am not going to be alone with a stranger. You may be the nicest person on the planet. You may be God's greatest gift, but you're not getting in a car alone with me in a vulnerable state because I can't pay attention to you. I have to pay attention to the road. I'm not going to have you next to me. I don't know you. I hope you the best. Just be honest. He's obviously lying to you to get his way. He's getting mad. I do not owe you anything. We do not know each other. This is going to come off mean, but at the end of the day, if something happens to you in 10 minutes when I'm gone, it's not going to change my life. You getting mad, though, is not going to make me say yes. I'll never understand this stance because, people, they throw these temper tantrums and they turn into a fucking asshole and they think that's going to get their way. If anything, I'm even more stern about my no. I'm like, thank God I didn't say yes in the first place. Anyways, let's go to another one. Me and my girlfriend were stopped at a red light in Alaska. It was considered a big city. They're so not like we are in a rural area. And a guy comes running out of the woods yelling for us to let him in the truck. For whatever reason, we do. The guy looked terrified of something. And I wasn't going to leave bro to whatever the hell was after him. He's freaking out, telling me to drive, and we gotta get out of there. I resist this and wait for the traffic light while my girlfriend is giving me side eye, sitting in the middle seat of a single cab truck. We start moving again, and I tell dude he's gotta calm down and tell me what's going on. At this point, I'm driving with no destination in mind, while he tells me the craziest story. Apparently, him and his girlfriend owed some money to some drug dealers, and we're going to meet up with him without the guy's money to try and get some drugs. Drug dealer guy pulls out a gun on the dude and his girlfriend, and he said there was a couple other people there. The area the guy said this happened in is in the woods a bit, but not completely isolated. The dealer somehow manages to make them get into a box. That's all the description I got, was a box. Well, they pulled him out of the box and made his girlfriend stay inside. And he said they stabbed him with something in the stomach a couple times, and he pulled up his shirt and there was a bunch of small holes all over the guy's stomach leaking blood. But not a lot. It looked substantial though. He said they were cutting little notches out of his ears, and I somehow hadn't noticed up to that point. But he had blood all over both sides of his neck, and his ears were all fucked up. Keep in mind, I'm driving a mile up the road at this point, and my girlfriend is telling me to pull over and get him the fuck out of the truck and call the police. Apparently, he bolted at some point from the group of people. No clue how many, just that there were other accomplices, and that's where our paths crossed. It suddenly hits me. What about your girlfriend? He said she was still in the box when he ran, and I'm panicking at this point. I'm like, bro, we gotta turn around and get her. I had a .38 revolver in the front pocket of my truck and tell my girlfriend to call the police. He flips out. No, they're gonna kill her. You gotta take me to my grandfather's house. He has a lot of guns. I'm telling the guy we need to call the police, and he agrees, but said he needs to call. I have no issue with this because I'm not exactly a saint at this point in my life, and I am involved heavily in what would be considered the organized crime scene. I don't want to talk to the police for any reason, but this was something the police needed to intervene in. He puts my phone up to his gross, mangled ear and starts talking to somebody that is clearly not the police, telling them to meet him at a large grocery chain that's pretty close by. He gives him, the person on the phone, a brief synopsis of events and tells him to bring guns. He hands me back the phone and I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? You need to call the cops. Your girl is in a fucking box in the woods. He's calming down a little bit at this point, and he tells me to take him to the grocery store to meet his grandfather, who apparently has guns. I'm honestly kind of pissed off at this point, and I try to convince him to tell me where this happened and to show me how to get there. My girl is freaked out at this point and tells me to just go to the grocery store and get him out of our truck. I think she was kind of pissed off at this point too. So I drive to the grocery store, and it doesn't take but a couple minutes to get there, and the kid's grandfather is already there somehow. I'm trying to get the guy to just call the police and that he needs to prioritize the shit that's happening to him. From the looks of his grandfather, I kind of figure the grandfather will surely clearly talk sense into the dude, and the police will be called. He thanks me for helping him and jumps out of the car in the middle of the parking lot and runs to his grandfather's truck. Me and my girlfriend drive off and are silent for a minute before she finally broke the silence. Well, that was fucking crazy. We stay pretty quiet on the ride back, and she stays sitting in the middle seat because there is a little streak of blood on the seat. We get home and talk about what happened and if we should call the police. I say nah, because the grandfather looked like a pretty normal grandfather character. The type that would talk his grandson into calling the police after he tells him what's going on. We were kind of fucked up over it for a few minutes. I look at her and tell her, honey, I swear to God, I would never leave you in a fucking box in the woods with kidnappers. And we had a weird nervous laugh over it. That night, we watched the news expecting to hear the conclusion to the whole thing. The next few days, we watch the news and read the newspaper expecting to hear about what happened to this girl that got left behind. There is no chance the guy wouldn't have had to go to the hospital. He had deep wounds to his stomach, and something other than blood was coming out of it. He stunk terribly, like he shit himself during the encounter. He was in bad shape. Never heard a word about any of it in the news. Me and my girlfriend felt awful about not calling the police. It might be hard to understand for a lot of people, but I was not someone who would call the police and keep doing what I was doing with my life. We even talked about making an anonymous call from a payphone, which were rare, but still existed during this period. We never did. Me and that girl have long since split up, but after reading this, I might see how she is doing and ask if she remembers this. If she has anything to add, I might add an update. I sure hope everyone was okay in the end, but I'll never know. This wouldn't happen to me. I know it sounds so bad. I know it does. But if I saw someone running towards my car, Locke, no. You're not getting in my vehicle, especially if someone I care about is also in this vehicle. No, I am not someone who gets involved. But here's the situation. I would not call from my personal phone. I would not call from something that has a location service on it. If anything, I would go to somewhere that doesn't have cameras. If there is a payphone something, I would call this in, but I would do it anonymously because I know this is gonna sound shitty. I know it is. Even if I find a dead body, I'm not calling it in. I'm not doing it. If you call it in, do not stick around. I cannot, no, because I'll tell you right now, you have now just become their main suspect. No. I have a irrational fear of going to prison for the rest of my life. We're not doing that. Sorry, but I wasn't involved in this. I'm not calling it in. If it gets called in, it's from a throwaway phone or a payphone. You are not going to see my face. I'm not going to hang out with the body. I'll tell you where it is. And in this situation, I'll give you all the information I know. I'll give you this guy's grandfather's number. I'll give you all the information. I'm not somebody for cops. I am not going to be indicted. I'm not going to be involved in this case. When they look up this case, they're not going to see my name anywhere. No freaking way. No. Oh, so-and-so called it in. Your iPhone is not anonymous. There's geolocators. There's a phone number. Even if you *67 it. For the younger people, when you *67 before you put a number in, it comes up as anonymous. They can still find you, okay? It's the cops. Anyways, let's go to another one. I viewed the property of a man who murdered his previous tenant. When I finished uni, I moved back home until I found a job. As soon as I could afford to, I set up a profile on the website Spare Room. I was contacted by James, who had a room for rent on the outskirts of the town I worked in. It sounded good, but he wanted to talk on the phone before inviting me to view it. We had a chat one evening, and it turned out we had some things in common. We both enjoyed fitness, particularly swimming, and we were movie buffs. By the end of the call, it had felt like chatting to an old friend, and I was looking forward to meeting him. James didn't specify his age, but I assumed he was in his 20s like me. When I went to view the property, he actually came out of the house next door to greet me. When he introduced himself as James, I was pretty shocked. He was at least 50, dressed quite conservatively, and looked like he was wearing a hairpiece. If he'd told me on the phone that he was in his early 20s, I wouldn't have questioned it. I went ahead with the viewing, but I had already decided I wanted to rent a room from him. I wanted to live with people who were a similar age to me. I was also put off by the house decor, which looked like it hadn't been changed since the 80s. When I viewed the bedroom, it looked like it was occupied by a young person. There were several pairs of trainers and a game console. James said that the previous tenant, Mark, was moving to London for work. Coincidentally, my name is Mark too. James invited me to sit in the living room after the house tour. I didn't want to be rude, so I did. He explained that he cared for his elderly mother, who lived next door. Then he started complimenting my style, saying I looked cool. He proceeded to put his hand on my leg, which made me very uncomfortable. When he asked if I was interested in the room, I said I had some other properties to view but would be in touch. I then made my excuses to leave. Everything about him screamed red flags. I just wanted to get out of the house. As soon as I was back in my car, I called my mom to tell her how freaked out I was, and I absolutely would not be living there. James texted me a few days later to ask if I'd thought any more about moving in. I lied and said I'd found somewhere closer to town. I did eventually find something with some other young professionals, which turned out to be great. Some months later, our town was shocked by the news that a man's body had been found in the fields on the outskirts. He was later identified as Mark. I didn't think much of that until I saw a murder suspect was his landlord, James. The same James whose house I viewed. I saw him on the news and got instant chills. He was later convicted of Mark's murder. Ooh. It can be so risky renting rooms from people. I have done it because, I did travel surge tech. So whenever I would go to a new state and go for a few months, I would stay with a stranger, with the way that I am. I highly vet them. Feel them out, I talk to them, see how it goes. But the thing is, I don't meet them until I'm literally moving in. Like when I went to Arizona, I literally the day of, I was like, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. She's like, hey, I'm blah, 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 blah. And it always worked out, thankfully. But I feel like instantly, even when you just talk to somebody on the phone, you can feel if they're a bad person. Maybe some people can't, because some people just don't have that intuition, but I could always feel it. Because there was some real weirdos that I talked to when going to find a room from somebody. Thank God you didn't move in, because you were probably his next Mark. He's like, I like to murder Marks. Maybe there's other Marks that he also murdered. This is not funny. Somebody died, okay? You guys, somebody died. Everything's not a freaking joke. Let's actually read some comments. Commenter, damn, in this case, it was a damn good thing you listened to your intuition warning to get the hell away from this dude ASAP. If you feel creeped the hell out just being around someone, the hell with worrying about being rude to them. You don't have to be concerned about being polite to them. You can just get away from them for your safety's sake. Like some podcasters have said, fuck politeness, especially when it comes to getting the hell away from a creep. The fact that he never told you his real age and that he got all friendly with you before he even met you in person shows that he was trying to hook you into staying at his place. It's almost like he wanted you as a replacement for his victim with the same name, which is truly even more chilling, especially after you found out that he was a murderer. Crazy thought. What if this was his alibi? He's like, yeah, Mark lives with me. He's right freaking here. I didn't murder that Mark. I don't even know that Mark. Crazy thought. Let's go to another one. Man claimed he was from the police. This is a story that pops back up in my mind from time to time. I've only told it to a few people, but I definitely feel like it deserves its place in here. It's for sure one of the scariest moments I've ever had as a child. Back when I was around 10 years old, my mom finally decided that it was time for her to start taking her driver's license. When she began taking lessons, she was struggling a lot. For that reason, my dad decided that he wanted to do some practice with her besides the official driving lessons with her instructor, just to make sure she'd pass the upcoming test first try. My little brother and I were attending swimming lessons at this nearby university at the time. Before a forest area near the university lays this huge student parking area surrounded by trees, which turned out to be basically empty every weekend. My dad saw the opportunity to take my mom here to drive around for a bit and brought my little brother and I with them since we were too young to stay home alone. We brought a football with us. When we arrived at the parking lot later on in the evening, my parents began their practice. My little brother and I quickly got bored though and asked if we could go over to this little grass field on the side of the parking lot to play some football. My parents let us since they'd always been able to keep their eyes on us while driving around. After playing for some time, my parents ended up driving around in the other end of the parking lot. They were approximately 30 to 40 meters away from my brother and I. Suddenly, this white Toyota pulls up in the parking lot. We were playing almost right at the exit entrance. The car turns around and stops on my right side with the vehicle facing the exit. The driver rolls down his windows and presents himself as Thomas. He looked friendly, was good looking, and young. A guess would be around 30. This is where things started to get weird. On the passenger seat was a woman covering her face with a newspaper. All I could see was long blonde hair. And on the back seat was a baby sat in a baby chair. Thomas immediately states that he's from the police and that we have to get in the car immediately as he has to talk to us. My brother actually took 2 steps towards the vehicle, but I stuck my arm in front of his chest as I was sensing something was off. The woman was still covering her face at this point, not saying a word. Thomas then raised his voice and told us once again to get in the car or else they'd have to come out and get us. My brother and I froze out of fear. Suddenly, the woman put down the newspaper, showed her face, and told us in the most calm, motherly voice to just listen to the man. The woman looked young, pretty, and like a person who wouldn't hurt a fly. At this moment, I began screaming as loud as I could. What he hadn't seen at this point was that my dad was already running as fast as he could towards us. He was coming from behind the vehicle, so we didn't see it. My parents didn't have time to drive to us since the road down the parking lot was twisted all the way. When my dad heard my scream, he started yelling as loud as he could. "Hey, who the F are you? Get the F away from my children." As soon as Thomas heard my dad and realized my brother and I weren't alone, he threw his car into gear and took off as fast as he could. He most definitely looked like a person who shat himself when he saw my dad. My dad was furious and told my brother and I to hurry up back to the car. He didn't even think about calling the police at this point. He wanted to beat the guy up himself. That resulted in us driving around for the next hour trying to find him before my dad cooled down and decided that he should probably just call the police. We never found out who these people were, but this episode taught me to never judge a book by its cover. People can be the most friendly looking people in the world and still wish evil upon you or the ones you love. I'm not sure what these people would have done to us. I am sure about one thing though, they definitely weren't from the police. Sounds to me like this man wanted to kidnap you, and I would bet the woman was kidnapped and that baby was kidnapped, and that's probably her baby. You dodged a bullet there, because your brother would have been kidnapped. He was like, okay, I'm coming. Police don't have other people with them unless it's their partner. And they would be in uniform. Was he in a uniform? You didn't specify. Even if an unmarked vehicle decides to pull me over, the very first thing I do is call the non-emergency number and ask, hey, I'm getting pulled over by an unmarked vehicle. Is this something you're aware of? I describe the car. Because I am not pulling over for an unmarked vehicle unless I verify it's the cops. And you shouldn't either. I'm not saying run from the cops. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if it is an undercover cop, you have the right to not stop and call and verify. There is a lot of impersonators out there. There really is. It could be the difference between you getting kidnapped, you getting who knows. Because how easy is it to just buy a light off Amazon and put it in your car? Very, very illegal. But there was actually a guy in Florida. He has like over 50 arrests. He's gone to jail. He's done all this shit for impersonating an officer. He has the whole get up. He has the lights. He has the stickers on his car. He hasn't gotten in true trouble. And he pulls over people like it's his job. He acts like police at every point he can. The cops know him by name. And he still does it somehow. I can't remember if he was doing anything to these people, but I know that it was mainly a power trip. It's because he's like, well, I'm a cop. I think he was just a security guard. He wasn't an actual sworn-in officer. But people do this all the time. So, especially if it is somebody in normal clothes with his whole ass family in his car, you got me fucked up. I'm not getting in the car with you. I'm stoked the OP screamed, because a lot of kids, they'd probably just freeze. And then your dad would have never came running. He would have got out of the car and napped your ass. That's so scary. So scary. I wish you guys had the information. Even the license plate, which the car might have been stolen. But I don't know. This kind of stuff is so scary because you never know somebody's intentions of kidnapping you, whether it's to imprison you, whether it's to harm you. Who knows? Let's go to another one. I, 37, male to female, went to a housewarming party with a friend who I had been going out to dinner with pretty regularly. I had met him about 6 months before at a game store. He had turned me down twice on the idea of potentially becoming more than friends. The party was supposed to be just a few people he and I mutually knew, and under 15 people. All needs, nothing too rambunctious. Red flags started being raised almost immediately. In reality, I think there was about 25 people or more who came in. Only 2 other girls were there. Mostly, they were dock workers or people who worked at a freight distribution center. I noticed a skill saw on the kitchen counter. Said counter was actively being used to cook, and the saw made space cramped. I noticed a large sledge and a 3-foot metal stake taken into the backyard. There were mall ninja swords and knives spread into every room of the house. At one point, I saw 2 kitchen knives taken from the kitchen and put around in different rooms of the house, one being in the garage. A couple drug dealers showed up, one waving a bag of mushrooms as he walked in. Several people there had gang tattoos visible. I was told 3 times by 3 different people that it was unfortunate to have met you on a night like this. A man put an unopened Sprite into a beanie and put it in his back pocket. I was watching a game of beer pong in the garage and thought I had been sipping on only one beer. I had actually left it unfinished next to my friend in the kitchen while he was making food. It was brought out to me by that friend. I drank another 1/4 of it and started feeling weird. I almost fell over just standing there. I threw about 1/4 of the beer away. When that happened and refused additional drinks, I went inside, and while talking to my friend, the guy who put the soda in the beanie came into the kitchen and edged towards me repeatedly as I edged closer to my friend. I rotated halfway around the kitchen to get away from him. It was a bit fuzzy at this point, but about 5 to 10 minutes later, I asked my friend to drive me home. People immediately started offering me mushrooms, tequila shots, and additional beers. I refused them all and edged towards the door. Something like 5 or 6 people kept getting between me and the door before my friend was ready to go. When we left, the guy with the soda can still in his beanie followed us out, explaining he thought he had blocked us in. And no, he was parked in the driveway and wasn't blocking anyone. He still moved his car, and I think followed us part of the way to my place. My friend asked if I wanted to get food or to go back to his place, and I insisted I wanted to go home. I saw my friend get a text saying, "Other options?" with a bunch of girls' names following. After we pulled up to my house, he asked me to read this long email and talked to me for literally an hour before I wobbled to the door and got inside. I have reconstructed a lot of this from hazy memories and conversations with my friends and my 2 parents that I live with. My parents in the house mentioned I had talked to both of them separately, which I completely do not remember. I also fell asleep on the couch in my clothes with 1 shoe on. There is a lot of that night I don't remember, and I am guessing at a lot of the timing. I think I was almost human trafficked, to be honest, and I will never leave a drink unattended again. One of the scariest nights of my life. I don't know that I would go straight to trafficking. I think that they probably wanted to do things to you. I mean, when it comes to giving somebody a substance that they did not consent to, there is so many things that could go with that. And it's so scary. You have no idea the intentions. The fact that there was this list of other girls' names kind of indicates that this is something that they do a lot. Hopefully, for your sake, you don't ever hang out with any of these people again. Because who knows what the intentions were? Maybe it was trafficking. Maybe it was they wanted to take advantage of you. Maybe they wanted to lock you in the basement. Maybe so many freaking things. I'm just glad, OP, you got out and just, that is so scary. I hate thinking of what ifs. Could what if yourself to freaking death? Let's go to another one. I dodged being murdered by my psychotic roommate just by a hair with real news articles. I'm a 36-year-old female in Sweden. I have worked in mental health care for the last 18 years, mainly with people with psychotic illnesses like schizophrenia. I was working at a group home for 9 years, and we were very close with my coworkers there, especially 2 females. The last few years I worked there, another female started working there. Let's call her M. And the 4 of us grew very close. She was very timid, shy, friendly, and we got along well. She was, however, often on long-term sick leave because of her own mental health issues, so we didn't meet much at work. But she always showed up at our after-work dinners, so we continued to stay in touch, even when she wasn't well enough to work full-time. She told us that she had a history of schizophrenia herself, just like the patients we were treating, but that she was medicated and hadn't had any psychotic episodes for years. Since I had an education in psychiatry and a long experience with schizophrenia, I had no judgment towards people suffering from the illness. And it didn't bother me being friends with someone who had a diagnosis like that. And even after that, I will tell you, I still feel the same way. In the summer of 2023, I had moved on to work at a new place, also within mental health, but this time forensic psychiatry, like a halfway house for mentally ill murderers, etc. The four of us stayed in touch and still met every now and then for dinner parties. Em told us that she had been evicted from her apartment because of an incident where she accidentally entered her neighbor's apartment in the middle of the night. She told us that in the huge apartment complex, the doors all look exactly the same, and that she simply walked in the wrong door by accident, and that the neighbors had created a scene out of a pure drama and reported her to the police. I somehow felt that while that sounded out of proportion to evict someone just like that, perhaps the landlord took that kind of action because he judged her based on her medical history. And I felt bad for her. I questioned her if something else happened, and she claimed that it didn't, and that this was the full story. In Sweden, it's very difficult to get a contract for an apartment when you have gotten eviction. That's everywhere. If you have an eviction, good luck. You're probably gonna be homeless. Let's be real. You pretty much get blacklisted. Em asked if she could move in with me, since we are literally on the same street, literally homeless. I said, of course you can. I've always gotten myself into uncomfortable situations by saying yes instead of thinking about myself, and I had no idea how severe the situation would get when I said yes to Em. I live in a pretty small apartment. It's one bedroom that's pretty much only fits a bed and a desk, a living room that fits a couch and a TV, no room for an extra bed, a small kitchen, and a small bathroom. I have 2 cats. We decided that Em was going to live in the living room, and I offered her to throw my couch out so she could have a bed there. But she said that she was fine just sleeping on the couch, since it's comfortable enough. I insisted on giving her a bed, but she declined. There's a door between the living room and the bedroom, but between the living room and the hallway, there's just an open arch so she wouldn't have total privacy. I hung up a thick velvet curtain covering the arch, so it at least gives her the sense of a door and more privacy than nothing. There's another door from my bedroom to my kitchen, so I had 2 doors to my bedroom. I have to have one of them open at night since my cats want to go in and out, and they also have their litter boxes in the bathroom, and food and water in the kitchen. I naturally kept the kitchen door open and not the living room door, since that's where Em lived and we wanted to keep our privacy somehow. She wasn't working at this time because she was on one of her long-term sick leaves, while I was working shifts, so sometimes I had to get up at 6 a.m. and sometimes I didn't get home until 11 p.m. I have really severe insomnia and need to continue Zolpidem, Ambien, Stilnoct, I'm probably not saying that right, I'm sorry, with promethazine. Why are medicines so hard to pronounce? I'm sorry, guys. And even with this, I still wake up easily. I told her that I would appreciate if she could try to stay quiet those nights when I have to get up at 6 a.m., but that it's fine if she's loud when I'm off work or when I do the evening shifts. She was a heavy smoker and a coffee drinker, so I bought her a coffee machine. Yeah, I know, I'm a weirdo who don't drink coffee very often, so I didn't have one, to make her enjoy her living situation more. The coffee machine and the sink is placed right outside my bedroom door. The kitchen is very small. So the first night together, I had to get up at 6 for my shift. As usual, I had a hard time falling asleep. Em had been up several times at the night to go to smoke, and I woke up every time. At 5 a.m., she started making coffee, and since it's literally outside my bedroom door, I got wide awake from the sounds of it. I asked her in the nicest way possible why she was up this early, asking if she had plans today. I mean, she's on sick leave. Why not sleep at 5 a.m. if you can? And she just said that she couldn't sleep. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I would just appreciate if you could wait with making the coffee till 6 a.m. since I really need this last hour of sleep because of work. Adding to why I need my sleep is that I have epilepsy that gets really bad when I don't sleep enough. I usually get a lot of seizures when I don't get at least 4 hours of sleep. I knew that I would probably get seizures at work now, meaning that this day would be both stressful and potentially dangerous for me, since there's a huge risk that I fall and hurt myself. And it's not a good thing to get cramps and seizures among mentally unstable criminal clients who you are supposed to care for. I know that it's not an ideal situation to work in that field with my condition, and I can inform you all that I did quit after only 6 months. She said that she really wanted coffee with her cigarette, but that she would try to wait the next time I have to work. I accepted it and went on with my day, but things didn't get better. She continued to wake up early in the morning and through the nights, and continued to promise to stop, but insisted that she really wanted coffee with the cigarette. I suggested making the coffee the night before, or drinking iced coffee, or Coke instead, but she didn't want that. I may add that she demanded for me to be silent at 10 p.m. because that's when she wanted to sleep, and I respected that. She used to get these moments of binge eating where she would empty my fridge and pantry from everything I had. I remember this one time when I had bought a big loaf of bread, and she texted me 30 minutes after I left the apartment saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, I ate your loaf of bread. I will buy it back once I get money." Like, an entire loaf of bread in 30 minutes. I had told her she moved in to feel at home and what's mine is yours, so I couldn't really get mad if she started to annoy me for 2 reasons. It was getting kind of expensive since it was such huge amounts, and it was always in inconvenient times of the day, like after an evening shift when the store was closed and I came home hungry and she had emptied the kitchen from everything I bought the same day. Em had long black hair that was everywhere, all over the sink, the floor, the bathtub. I'm no clean freak, but I think anyone could understand that this isn't the nicest thing to step in or see everywhere in your house. She also left her fingernails and toenails on the bathroom floor. It was also pee drops on the toilet seat every time she had been to the toilet. Oh my God, dude. I saw a silverfish on my bathroom floor. Never ever seen one before. And they eat hair, skin, and nails. So I figured this fella probably enjoyed life because of the new dirty condition my bathroom was in. At first, I didn't want to say it straight out because I thought it would hurt her and I didn't want to make her uncomfortable. So I just put a broom and shovel in the bathroom to imply that we needed to sweep the floor more often. This didn't seem to work, so after a while, I told her in the nicest way possible with a smile on my face, "Do you think we could try to clean the floor in the bathroom more often? We tend to lose some hair when we brush it, and I'm afraid we may get pests. I saw a silverfish the other day, and I don't want it to get worse." I always made sure to say we instead of you so she wouldn't feel attacked. She promised to think about it, but nothing changed. Think about it? I started dating a guy and was head over heels for him. He was also in a roommate situation, so we had a tough time getting anywhere alone. I asked him if there's any chance that we could get one night to ourselves every now and then in the apartment, and she said of course, that she of course would get the apartment to herself as well. She didn't like the idea and claimed that she had nowhere to go, no friends or family. Now, I wasn't asking her to leave for 24 hours, just a few hours so we could just get some quality time together. She could just go to the library or take a walk or whatever. I was at work for 8 to 10 hours, 5 days a week, so she got a lot herself. One of our old coworkers realized that this was really tearing at my mood, to never get any time for myself, and I started feeling really suffocated. She offered that Em could stay the night at her place. After all, they were friends too. And I really just want one night to myself and my guy. I didn't understand why she made such a big deal over leaving me in the apartment for just one night. She eventually accepted and spent the night there, and I spent the night away the next week so she could get more time alone. When I came home the next morning from my night away, I saw that my cat's water bowl was completely dried out. There was no spill on the floor, and it looked like it had been wiped out with towel or paper. I had filled it to the brim just the night before. I asked her how that was possible, and she said the cats must have tipped it over, but there was nothing on the floor, like I said. She kept being weird, kept making a mess, kept waking me up, kept eating my food, and all I could think about was the incident with her and the baby and the knife. I eventually got so pissed off about being woken up by the coffee maker, so I plunged it out and stored it in the attic, which she had no access to. It may be childish, but I was getting so tired at this moment. My sleeping pills were stolen, and I was starting to feel like Edward Norton in the beginning of Fight Club. Well, the next night, I woke up at 4 a.m. by her making coffee in a saucepan. Not my grandmother's saucepan, that one was ruined. I tried talking to her again, explaining the situation, but she just stared and didn't reply. Me being frustrated and on the tipping point, took the saucepan and stored it in the attic as well. I know, but I was going crazy and just wanted her to stop with these nightly coffee routines and get the hint. Throw away the coffee. She ain't got no money. Update. May 16th. I just remembered some other things I wanted to add to the post. There were several times I was going to work early in the morning that she occupied the bathroom by taking long baths. I patiently tried to wait till last minute before knocking and asking if she could get up after I'd already gotten ready and left for work. Just another thing that added to my frustration. This roommate wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes with me. I'll tell you that. Nope. I don't care how mean you. I don't care how offended you are. I am gonna. Nope. I don't. Like I said, I treat everybody the same. And if you want to act like a loser, girl, I'm gonna treat you like a loser. We two can tango. I fell really ill one time when she was staying here. I didn't know at the time what it was, but I woke up early in the morning one day feeling very nauseated. On my way to the bathroom, I literally shit myself and threw up at the same time. It takes like 10 seconds to get to the bathroom, so you can imagine how bad it was when I didn't even make it. LMAO. I had a really high fever and kept throwing up and shitting myself all morning. And anyone who has been this ill would understand that you want the bathroom to yourself. Actually, I think it's pretty understandable that you'd want to be completely alone when you are this ill. My head was spinning and I was nearly hallucinating from the high fevers. One random thing I laugh about today is that it was Eurovision week, and for some reason the flute solo from Moldova's song was stuck on repeat in my head while it's in and out of a fever dream. In and out of fever dreams. I had a hard time listening to it today. Haha. Anyways, working in healthcare, I always have a natural instinct of not wanting to spread infections. So my first thought was that besides wanting to be alone, I didn't want to risk giving whatever this was to M. So I begged her for the moment I noticed I was ill to please leave for her own sake. I could barely speak because it made me throw up that easily. Our friend in common had asked her to water her plants that week, so she had the keys to her place and could have been alone there. M refused to leave, and I swear if I had the energy to slip out of the window and fall to my death, I would have, but I couldn't. I was half sitting, half laying on the toilet with a bucket in my lap, my head sort of resting in the bucket of puke because I couldn't hold it up because of the high fever. And I just begged through whispers for her to leave so she wouldn't be ill too. I told her, what if you get sick soon too? We can't share the toilet. I will be here all day. You should go to her place before it's too late. Eventually she left, pissed at me. It turned out I had a severe case of food poisoning, and I was well again after 2 days. But my God, the fact that she refused to leave is something I felt I had to add to the story because it made me so frustrated too. I also went through our conversation and saw me asking her how long the door had been closed. That reminded me that she used to shut my cats inside my bedroom while I was away at work or whatever, so they couldn't eat, drink, or use the litter boxes. She claimed she had just recently closed it. She was trying to sleep, but I remember she did it in the middle of the day one time, the last few days too. Let's just general senses. You have cats. This is a complete psychopath. The fact that your cats were showing weird signs of not wanting to be around this person should be a clear indication that you and your animals are in danger. How the hell could you go to work every day and leave your cats with this woman? No way. If I had to spend the money somehow to board my animals until this bitch kicked the curb, I would not be surprised if she was hurting your animals and that's why they were scared of her. Or they just felt the psychosis. I don't know. Animals have crazy intuition. There is so many things where I would have been like, no. The audacity. A lot of kids nowadays, this is the kind of audacity that they have. They think that they deserve the world for no reason. They think you need to bend over backwards because they are alive and well. There are so many things. The fact that she didn't say sorry to ruining an heirloom of yours. The fact that she did not give a shit about your seizures or your well-being. The fact that you even let her live with you for free and she acted like this. Also, side note, I don't know how you can sleep with your door open when you live with somebody. My bedroom door cannot be unlocked or open when I am sleeping. I do not feel safe. I do not feel comfortable. No, it's the same as me locking my doors. I'm not going to go to sleep with my doors open, I'm not going to go to sleep with my doors unlocked, especially my bedroom door. That's another barrier that somebody would have to get in if they broke in. And I know that I'm paranoid, but you know what? I'd rather be safe than sorry, because I ain't gonna have a bitch standing at my doorway with a knife in the middle of the night. I'm gonna have plenty of times to hear them come in. Also, my dogs would lose their effing mind if they heard anything in our house. This is crazy. I probably would have beat the fuck out of this bitch. The second I saw she was standing at my door with a knife, tripping. You knew it was a knife that night. My ass would have sprung out of bed and I would have beat the bricks off this bitch. Oh, you were gonna kill me? You were gonna kill me? Okay, not only are you getting out of my house, I'm beating the fuck out of you. And then we're calling the cops and say you were gonna murder me. Because no. Also, OP doesn't mean she didn't make a copy. You and your friend should have changed your locks. The night that she came to the door with a knife, that next day, when she's at her psychiatrist appointment, I would have packed the stuff just like you did, but I would have changed my locks and would have been outside the door and said, "Peace, bitch. Best of luck." I do not care if you're having a psychotic break. Take your medication. Everybody who has these issues, they get better from the medication. They think they don't need it. They stop taking it and they do some dumb shit like arson or murder. Moral of the story, if you're getting better because you're taking medication, you think you don't need it, keep taking it. It's the medication, not your brain fixed. Anyways, I'm sorry, this shit pisses me off. I've had so many roommates throughout the years. This would not fly. And I'm not a violent person, but if you came to me thinking of murdering me or even harming me, you done fucked up. You messed up. That's it. Lines crossed. You're out on the street. I do not care if you are sleeping on the sidewalk. You're not sleeping with me. Nope. Let's go to another one. Who is the scariest person you've ever met? Guy I went on 2 dates with about 7 years ago from Coffee Meets Bagel. I was prone to self-sabotage, heavily Googling and backing out of dates before they happened. I said I wouldn't do that. First date, he was quiet, a little awkward but polite, so I gave him a second shot. The day of the second date, I text asking him his last name, realizing I don't have that. He asked why I want it, and jokingly said, "So I'll know it when you kill me, obviously, LOL, joking." An hour later, he comes back with it. I think the joke didn't sit well. I get to the restaurant, it's on campus in the off season on a Sunday night, aka empty. I tell him I'm there. After a few minutes, he pulls in, drives past me and parks in the back, which is odd. The entire front lot was empty. We go in, date's fine. I tell him I live on the northeast side of the city. He tells me he actually lives in another city. This was not what was on his profile. He names a city southwest of us. At some point, I bring up a meme I saw on social media. He abruptly says he doesn't have social media, cutting off the conversation, kind of annoyed. The date ends and he walks me to my car, standing extremely close to me. I decided to turn and hug him to get him to leave before I open my car. As I get out to the main road, I realize he's following me. This is the opposite direction of where he needs to go, and he's sitting back. I tell myself I'm being paranoid. There's a Target down the road, maybe he's going there. There's a turn to the main road that heads back into town in that direction I live. I notice he gets over with me. I quickly get out of the lane and he doesn't pull forward. He's slunk down low in his vehicle. I drive up towards Target, waiting to the last moment to jump to the turn lane. He follows. I pull into the lot and buzz around a cart pusher in an effort to throw him off. I pull back to the service road and see him climb out of his car, slowly scanning the lot like he's looking for someone. I drive to another Target on the other side of town where I used to work and let security know. They scan the lot and I eventually leave. When I got home, I Google him. Nothing. I remember he sent me a screenshot of a meme from Instagram once. It has mutual followers listed. I start going through them until I find one that's not private. There he is, and he lives somewhere different than he said. I reverse searched his pictures till I find his Facebook. He gave me an entirely false name. I reported him and the site removed him, thankfully. I just think about what might have happened had I just gone home. Edited for grammar. That's what I get for trying to type on my phone during a bumpy car ride. Oh man, dating now is so dangerous. You're either gonna fall in love, die, or get your heart broken. More on the you're gonna get hurt situation, emotionally or physically. Yeah. Dating is not for the weak, I'll tell you. I remember I was trying to date after my divorce, and I was like, oh no, I'm so good on this. I'm so good on this. It's Everybody wants to be non-monogamous. Everybody wants to be a whore all the time, and that's not my thing. And you probably dodged a bullet with that one. The fact that he gave a fake name is like, oh, I don't have social media, thinking that every girl is not an undercover detective is absolutely insane behavior. Because I'll tell you right now, the second a girl gets a weird win, they're like, they're better than a detective. They really are. They're better than any PI you could possibly hire. Because they'll find your mother's sister's brother's long lost cousin of the fourth. Flip it and reverse it. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. It's all up to you.